This movie has parallel reality, it has fusion, it has bounty hunters, it has Martians, it has an exploding planet, and it has very ugly character designs. Seriously, look at that horrible thing. I was enjoying the movie seeing the separate stories of the characters, but that ending is something so unbelievable that it's hard to understand what the idea of this movie is. It's hard to even understand what's going on, and what madness that was that the writers had. Let's talk a little bit about Justice League WarWorld. Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm Demonio, the interdimensional demon that talks most about DC animations on YouTube, and you're on my channel. Justice League WarWorld is another movie from the so-called tomorrowverse, and it's interesting that it has that name, because it's not exactly a Justice League movie, but it's about WarWorld. But at the same time, putting WarWorld in the title is a big spoiler for who will watch it, since the film is divided into 4 parts, and 3 of these parts are solo adventures by Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, and in that sense the film works like the WandaVision series, in which we have a narrative divided into episodes, and at first we don't know what's going on. Well, in this movie it should be like this. The problem is that we already know what is happening, since WarWorld is in the title of the movie, so we already know that it is an illusion and that they are in WarWorld. You can already imagine that all that is an illusion, and that's a problem because it spoils all the surprise of the film. I believe that Warner really should have considered putting a title that was cool but not spoilery. But Demonio, isn't the movie itself cool? You said that it only gets bad at the end, but why? Well, each of the 3 episodes that we have within the movie are cool in general. I really liked the Wonder Woman episode. It's cool and directly refers to an episode of the Justice League animated series, and it even has a guest appearance by Jonah Hex. I just find Wonder Woman using firearms strange. I even thought that in the end, she would have a character arc where she would realize that she doesn't like to use weapons, and would discard the use of them. And even though there is no art, direction, and a soundtrack that creates an Old West mood, it's an interesting episode. The Batman episode is the most creative of the 3, as it takes place in a primitive world with dinosaurs, and Batman is taken prisoner by a guy named Warlord, who looks a lot like Oliver Queen, and the 2 go on a mission, after making a deal for Batman's freedom. One thing I really didn't understand in this episode was the moment when Batman betrays Warlord and leaves him for dead, since they had made a deal, and Bruce had already shown himself to be kind, saving some of the characters from death, and I would even understand if he had left the villain to die, but at that moment the guy was his partner. It doesn't seem like an attitude compatible with Batman. But Demonio, he was out of memory. Yes, that's true, but what about the character's personality and values? That shouldn't change. I really didn't understand the scene. The Superman episode already has a little more care with the aesthetics, since it is black and white, which helps to create a climate consistent with the time in which it supposedly takes place. And in this Clark episode, as it is the 3rd, a lot of things are starting to be revealed. We realize that the enemies are the White Martians, and for me the film is starting to get confused. For example, in the Batman episode another Wonder Woman appears, but that one is the same Diana from her and Clark episode? Or is it 3 different Wonder Woman? I'm questioning this because one of the things that the film barely addresses is the multiverse, as we will have an animation adapting Infinite Crisis, and in the scene where Wonder Woman starts to recover her memory she says that she remembers Clark, but that it was not her Clark, implying that she was from another universe. But honestly, this is the worst of the film's problems. When the Trinity comes out of the illusion and they meet the Martian Manhunter, and he begins to explain everything to them, everything is very confusing, especially for those who do not previously know what WarWorld is and how it works. The movie doesn't do a good job of explaining the world they're in, or how the characters got there, but we learn that the Martian Manhunter who was creating those illusions to keep the characters there. Something similar to what happens in the Matrix. Suddenly, a character with different armor appears, which I even thought was the Kalibak, since he was very different, and until then the enemies were only the White Martians. And who is this guy? Apparently an extra, because Superman defeats him and we never find out who he is. So without further explanation Lobo appears and defeats everyone. We are introduced to the villain, who is Mongol, including one of the ugliest versions of him. What a horrible design it is that. Seriously guys, look at this. Mongol starts to give a very generic and confusing explanation, saying that he was after a key that was in a Martian, but that he had already looked in many different universes and hadn't found it. And here I have to highlight the multiverse being cited, very randomly. Mondel then decides to kill Martian Manhunter, which doesn't make any sense, since by killing the guy, Mondel definitely wouldn't have the key, and besides, if Mondel kills him, who will control the prisoners? And meanwhile, the movie doesn't know what to make of Lobo, and casts him as the guy who's joking around while things are happening. So the Martian controls Lobo, Lobo attacks Mondel, Mondel attacks Martian, the Trinity arrives and attacks everyone. The climax of the film is when the Martian Manhunter does a fusion with a white Martian extra, and he gives a crazy explanation about each half of the key being in one of the DNAs, so they do a fusion and the fused Martian decides to destroy the planet, despite of the super saying that if he destroyed the planet, not only the villain would die, but all the prisoners, the Trinity, the Martian himself, in short, everyone. And I even understand him wanting to destroy the planet, so that it won't be used again by anyone, but think with me, the villain had already been defeated. Why didn't he just wait until everyone evacuated the planet, to only then destroy it? Martian Manhunter, you're a nice guy. I like you, but you were really stupid. You preferred to kill yourself, kill millions of innocents, and kill your friends, when you could just wait until everyone evacuated. Seriously, how did the people who wrote this script not think of that? Then, at the end of the film, when everything is about to explode, Harbinger appears, a character from the Infinite Crisis, who says that the Trinity needs to be alive for the next film, since the crisis is coming. And speaking like that, it seems that I hated the film, but in fact I enjoyed it, even though in my opinion the ending is meaningless, and the film in general leaves something to be desired in terms of fluid animation. It is an interesting film, mainly through the characters' individual episodes. And you, what did you think of the animation? Do you think there was something that I didn't quite understand? Leave it in the comments, and subscribe to follow the next videos. Until next time my people, demonic hugs.